Vineet is the founder and chairman of Aavishkaar Group, an impact investment platform impacting millions of people across Asia and Africa using an entrepreneurship-based development approach. Vineet believes in building impact ecosystems to deliver real impact as enshrined in the vision of the Aavishkaar Group. The group's ecosystems include Aavishkaar Capital, offering unique cash flow-based business loans to micro, small and medium businesses. How valuable that must be. And Intelcap, the Aavishkaar Group has 7,000 employees, manages assets in excess of $1.2 billion US, while aligning the group to 13 out of 17 sustainable development goals, and how important that is in the modern world. Vineet has received numerous awards, and most recently, Vineet Rai and Swati Rai, their co-founder, were awarded the Faces of Vibrant Bharat 2021 by the Grant Thornton. Wow. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Vineet, over to you. The power of a great business plan.
May I come in for a moment again, Vineet, before you start? Bernard, I'd like to say one big thank you to Ritesh for his wonderful straight talking address. Ritesh is a unique success, but Vineet is a completely different level. He's not just successful himself. Vineet has helped create many entrepreneurs. He's a force multiplier for good. And it's not just, Vineet, I would request you not only to talk about a good business plan, but also talk about a business plan for good. So that is what he does, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Munjal. Very grateful that you invited me. Mr. S.K. Rai, who reached out to me and asked me to come here. Bernard, who did such a beautiful job of introducing. I don't think so. My introduction is as good. But to those who are listening to me, I'm actually a forester by training. So for me to be actually talking about a business plan is quite ironical. But because I'm a forester, and since I have lived in a forest for not for a very significant part now, but when I started off, it was a significant part of my life. I have been very closely associated with a term called ecosystem. Over a period of my time, as things have evolved, I have learned that that term ecosystem is very critical. When we think about a business, when we think about the world, and we think about sustainability, given that the first time in our history, we actually are challenged with survival at what we call the global scale. Across the board, across the 7 billion, all of us are challenged. And it has never happened before. Even at World War I, World War II, a significant part of humanity still believed that they were not at risk of being wiped out. But today with COVID, I think first time, the saying, the Indian civilizational saying, Vasudev Kutumbakam, has come true. We are actually one civilization, we are one family, and our survival is together. So I'll start with this context to talk about the power of a good business plan. I will not be a very a great guy in terms of giving you very good management-oriented lessons, but I'll try to tell you about what I think is a business plan. And generally, people make a business plan because an investor has asked for it. And therefore, my first advice to you is business plan is never made for an investor. There are many different ways of understanding and articulating a business plan, but let me tell you my way. It's an honest conversation between the founding members of a startup on the problems they are solving. And it is very important because if you do not know what problem you are solving and you don't have an honest conversation, you may actually be not writing a business plan that you genuinely believe in. I think the second part of that problem is the scale that is possible. And the third is there a unit economics? All the three things, when articulated both in words and numbers, is essentially a business plan. And to me, this is very important for you to understand. You do it for yourself and for nobody else, not for the investor, not for your friend, not for your family, not for your management school. You do it for yourself. And if you do it for anybody else, chances are that's not a business plan that's going to be successful. So when you start up at any given point of time, anywhere in the world, start by believing you are doing this for yourself. What should be your expectations from the business plan? Or what is my expectation from my business plan or your business plan or any business plan? First of all, it should be an articulation of the vision of the founders. Whatever you want to do, how you articulate, it should express the skill and capability of the team that you carry. It should very clearly lay out the problem at hand and its scale. So the problem that you're trying to solve and what is the scale you're trying to do. And finally, if you're not able to articulate through this process, how your solution create value. And then value is actually a very different term than valuation. So keep that in mind. Value is about what you are going to do. And it's not just about how you will make money, but how you will actually benefit your consumers. There is a significant difference between making money and benefiting your consumers, but there is very limited difference between benefiting your consumers and making money. So if you benefit your consumers, you will surely make money. But if you're only thinking about making money and not benefiting your consumers, chances are you're not going to make a great business. You might be a great trader, but not a great businessman. It's also very important to think a business plan will not make you rich by shortcut. That's the biggest mistake you will make. It's also not an ego trip for yourself. So please don't try to make a business plan because you think making a business plan will make you distinct, different, find you a better boyfriend or a girlfriend. All that doesn't happen, unfortunately. A lot of people I have interacted with actually do feel that. It's also not about you as an individual or your friend or whosoever. It's about the problem that you're trying to solve. And it is seriously not about raising money itself. So just keep this at the back of your mind when you are thinking about a business plan, the do's and don'ts. Key ingredients, you should have identified a problem and you should be able to articulate what that problem is, why you want to solve it. You should be able to identify a management team. Remember that there are many different things, but a great idea with a poor management team is worthless. A mediocre idea with a great management team could actually be very worthwhile. So the idea is important, but the management team probably is way more important. And the management team includes your co-founders and your key employees who will come and join you and build the edifice of the business that you're trying to start. Business model, I talked about unit economics earlier. It's very important to actually understand what is it that you are doing, and the money that you spend should be actually a little less than the money that you learn. Amazingly, having spent, being a forester, when I went to MBA school, I spent some time at IIM Ahmedabad. I realized that the best management skills forget to teach that business is about earning more money than spending. As you can, and it's actually amazing. A lot of people don't understand it. And I see it continuously as an investor. Financial model is important. Remember, financial model is not an Excel sheet. Excel sheet is a very important tool to make a financial model, but it is not the skills in the Excel sheet that makes a financial model. It is the assumptions behind those Excel models that are critical. So when I, as Vineet Rai, look at a financial model, I do not necessarily actually look at whether because it's very easy for any smart person with Excel sheet capabilities to demonstrate that the revenues will continue to grow at 175% year on year, come what may, come COVID, come whatever, and that profits will also continue to scale. That's very easy to do. The assumptions behind them are therefore critical, and you must understand and explain them. And finally, you should know what is it that you're looking for. In today's day and age, you will require capital to build scale. And at some point of time, you'll have to return the money. And it's very, very important for you to actually take all these points into account as you start building a business plan. One thing that is going to be true with you is howsoever old you are, 16-year-old, 25-year-old, 35-year-old, you will always be besieged with self-doubts. There is never a time when you are starting up that you will feel confident. It's actually part of the business process. If you are confident, chances are you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So therefore, self-doubts and parts and parcel, and therefore do not beat yourself down. Doubts will stay, questions will keep coming. You have to keep refining, keep learning, but you have to continue to march forward. I think I was listening to Ritesh, and that's what probably in some sense he was also alluding to, that you have to move on. And I think a very important point that you mentioned, which I actually genuinely believe in, have your ambitions very large, but when you are actually walking on the road, keep an eye for the truck that is coming on. So you may want to dream and have an aeroplane and must be flying, traveling to Mars. But when you're walking on the road, look out for the car that will blow you away. So keep your ambitions high, but when you are executing, always look at the reality that faces you. When you are actually preparing for a fundraise, you have to ask yourself whether you are actually saying the same thing, you're mewing or you're woofing. You just need to know, are you different? Is there something that you have to offer that makes you slightly different from others? Trying to stand out is very important. Trying to gel in may not necessarily actually get you the right attention from the investors. It's very important to actually exemplify your team expertise in how you stand out. It's a critical part of your thought process. And you have to be consistent and thoughtful. So there will be lots of questions. These questions come from very different angles. Sometimes in our eagerness to respond to every question, you may actually be making a bigger mistake. So therefore, even if you don't understand the question or the question is out of the syllabus, that means you're not prepared for it, stay consistent with what you are saying. So don't try to actually cover up or try to actually act as if you knew. People are smart enough, they can see through. And so therefore, consistent and thoughtful is very important. When you are in the business of writing a business plan, you must also convince yourself that you are not in a short race. Fundraising is an endless activity. Business plan is actually a starting point. So prepare like you prepare for a marathon. Do not prepare as if you're on a 100-meter race. There is no pot of gold at the end of the business plan. The journey has not even started. Developing a fundraising strategy, well, there are many millions of answers I can give you. I think the most important thing is to ask yourself, what do you need? So if you're looking for $100,000 and you're going to knock at SoftBank's doors, you are actually at the wrong door, so don't go there. Ask yourself, what is your business? What do you want? How much money do you want? What money is relevant? And then go and identify. So do you need an angel investor? Do you need a high net worth individual? Do you need a family, large family offices? Do you need a venture fund? Do you need a private equity? Depending on the stage, your maturity, your own ambition, make up those choices and write on the knock on the right door. Don't knock on every door that looks like a capital provider. When you are getting in front of an investor, it's very important to understand that the languages that we both speak, the entrepreneur's language and the investor's language is pretty much like a guy speaking chaste Hindi talking to a person from London. And it's very important to therefore understand that you have to learn to understand each other's language. Investors are actually meeting entrepreneurs all the time. So most investors understand what an entrepreneur is saying, but most entrepreneurs will struggle to understand what an investor is saying. That's the reality. My general suggestion is take your time, and therefore you need to actually have advisors who can help you actually understand the language of interaction. But do ask the investor whether they can contribute to your strategy. How will they play a role in your governance? What kind of transparency questions they will ask? And will they contribute or support you in multiple fundraisers that you have to do? These are bare minimum questions that you should ask and engage with investors. Do not try to run away with capital just because it is available. So having some level of engagement with the investor is very important. I have seen a lot of people get fatigued by the capital raise and get very excited or ask any questions to the investors. It's not necessarily a great strategy. You heard from Ritesh about perseverance, but to be an entrepreneur, you really need to have 3 Ps. I'm not necessarily an academician, but I'm still using a very academic term, 3 Ps. I know a lot of people say we are passionate. Passion is very important, but it's not a sufficient condition. So passion is critical. Saying that I'm passionate is important. but perseverance probably is even more important. So passion backed with perseverance, and at the end of it, having patience. This is an endless journey. You think you'll finish one fundraise and their story is over. Unfortunately, there will be another fundraise. And when you are on your fourth or fifth fundraise, you will realize that the first guy has to go out. So there is an exit and there is an IPO. And once you are an IPO, you have to do on a quarterly basis, you have to report back. So you have to have all the three P's if you want to be in this. Guys, you have just finished a brilliant fundraise, but the hard work just has begun. Your business plan has finished. Your hard work just begins. I don't think so my life has been this interesting or entertaining as the presentation has been, but I just wanted to take you through something which you can carry with yourself. And that's why I shared this. But at some point of time in my life, I'll get an opportunity again. I will actually tell you my own story, which was slightly different from the presentation I made. Bernard, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Vineet. What an entertaining presentation. Certainly captured my attention. But the points are so pertinent. Could I ask you a question?
Please.
I found within our incubators we run that a number of our younger entrepreneurs coming through are wanting to use different methods of presenting their business case, their business plan, things like business model canvas. What are your views on the modern technology and how, you know, early stage business can still present their business case, but in slightly different ways than 20-page dissertations?
Yeah, well, I think, Bernard, the fact of the matter is that in my own lifetime, in the last 20 years, since the time I became an entrepreneur and an investor, I have seen the way you engage with investors through a business plan has changed quite dramatically. I have seen people who have come and written, so they came with no business plan and actually used a board to write down what they wanted to do. And then I have people who have come with 70-page business plan, but did not actually remember most of what they had written. So you come across all kinds of entrepreneurs. I think my general submission to any entrepreneur at any given time is that you must ask yourself, do you have a problem that you're trying to solve, or do you have a solution in search of a problem? Invariably, and this is actually, Bernard, interestingly very true for the first world countries. I met a lot of entrepreneurs from the developed world where they have a great solution in search of a problem. And generally the second world and third world countries, developing countries, and even in Africa where we do a lot of work, people are actually trying to solve a real problem. So they identify a problem and then they're trying to solve it. Solutions are normally very exotic when it comes from the first world, but the problems unfortunately is missing. And the solutions that I have seen in the third world are actually very simplistic. In India, we have actually seen the whole journey of very simple solutions. And now we are actually at a stage where we are seeing reasonably complex solutions being offered to reasonably complex problems as well. So I think general learning is what I have seen is when you are in third world, you see simple problems, you come up with simple solutions. When you move to the second world, which is a developing economy, a slightly more developing economy, then you look at very complex social problems. Like, for example, you see large amount of waste and you want to convert that waste into wealth. And then you've tried to figure out how do you do it without government actually paying for it. And that becomes a very complex solution to a very complex social problem. And then when you go to the first world where they have already actually solved very unique kind of problems. I mean, you look at what Elon Musk is doing, he's trying to take us to Mars. Now that's a fairly complex problem, but I think it's a complex solution to a problem that we still have not yet reached to. I think out of 7 billion, probably 6.985 billion probably will never go to Mars. So therefore, it's not a solution that probably the world is in desperate need of. And that's how I actually define it. So some of these challenges remain, but instruments, the way you approach it, how you do it will keep evolving. And I think it is evolving given the attention period that people have, especially investors have, is very short. So a unique, different way of presenting is very useful.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely clear. You have to be solving a problem that people want. You cannot come up with, as you say, these rich technical solutions to problems that perhaps don't exist. Therefore, you have no customer and therefore no business. Just beautiful summary. Thank you, Vineet, for sharing your time, expertise and interest with us today. And again, if I may be so bold, can you remain as part of our MBCIE community? Your expertise will be invaluable to our clients as they work through their programs with us. Thank you.
Bernard. I'll be very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bernard, before you bring Ishita on, can I take another minute?
Yes, please.
I want to expand on your question and the response that Vineet just gave you. And incidentally, Ritesh also spoke about the same thing. The reality here is that we live in a country where there are still 200+ million people who do not get 2 square meals a day. So it will be very helpful and useful for us to understand what does that actually mean. So there are real problems out there. So whether you call it the bottom of the pyramid, you call it the underprivileged, you call it the poor, you call it those who are not serviced by the regular systems of government, community systems, and business. I think there's an amazing, amazing opportunity. So there are 2 ways to look at this. One is on the human angle. Being fair, it is important that all good quality infrastructure and facilities are made available to everyone, whether it's education, healthcare, nutrition, clean drinking water, safe housing, and the like. On the flip side, there is an opportunity. So if you don't do this, you have a potential of creating a negative society. You have the potential of raising crime rates, because beyond a point, if somebody's starving, she or he doesn't care what they do to get food for their children, and they will do what it takes. But if you're able to provide all of these facilities, if you're able to have them live a better quality of life, these same individuals will become consumers. They become consumers of goods and services. And by the way, there is enough maths to show. I don't need to go into the numbers now. And Ishita may have actually done some of this work, that India has the potential to create the world's largest growth market. If you do the right thing by this large community, which is currently underserved. I'm not even talking of the solutions of high order that you just alluded to, Bernard. But if you just tap this, it is an amazing opportunity just sitting there. So for good reasons, both for social reasons, human reasons, economic reasons, and business reasons, there is every reason for us to focus on this end of the market, to focus on getting all the basic goods and services out there, and ensuring that we make them confident, comfortable citizens of this nation and the world, and turn them into consumer and growth growth champions for literally anything and everything that you do. Because human nature is to want to do better for yourself and your families. Once they become consumers, they will want to raise the standards. So in India, already at the top end of India, by the way, India is completely global. We have the same consumption patterns as any place else in the world. But that's a thin slice at the top. The idea is there is a huge market sitting out there at many layers below that. So as you touch each one, you find a big problem and an even bigger opportunity. So that's what I would recommend to the many, many smart, young, passionate, hungry individuals who are there on this call today, and the many millions who are not. So Vineet, thank you very much for all the amazing work that you do. And that was, I agree with Bernard, that was a good exposition of what a plan should be, and especially what it should not be. Thank you very much.